Hey everybody, welcome to part 2 of this Xpression tutorial. This tutorial is going to be a lot more geared towards sports, and we're going to talk a lot about data linking and how to automate things inside Xpression. So this will be a little bit more advanced tutorial. Make sure you've watched the first tutorial we made, and also if you need a little more in-depth stuff, you can definitely check out the Ross Xpression U University tutorial pack. That's available on Ross's website. Alright guys, so you've noticed I've got a few more windows open up in Xpression this time. We have our main Xpression viewer right here. You can see our channels. You can see channel 1 up there in the top right and channel 2 right below it. We have something called the Datalink server right below it. I'll talk more about that in just a second. Then we also have an Excel spreadsheet which houses all our data for the game. So the majority of sports things are driven actually from spreadsheets, stats, and other databases that don't actually live inside Xpression. So let's get started with the project. I've downloaded the ESPN 2017 college football project right now. And you'll notice there's a bunch of scene files over here. There's all kinds of different things. They're all separated into folders. I'll just kind of go over a few of the basic things right here just so you're familiar with it. We have the scoreboard, otherwise known as the mini board, that appears in the bottom right of this package. And then all the corresponding flags and stats that pop up over or on top of it. Big numbers, we have players. We also call these big heads because we usually put an action shot like a PNG right there, and then their stats will populate right there. Go and drop down full screens. If you remember from last tutorial, full screens is another common term. So you see there's our big graphics that are made to go over beauty cameras or have a background with them. And they'll display things like rankings, big pictures, any really big important information the viewer needs to see. We also have full screen infos, which are the same thing but geared more toward text-based stuff. You'll see these a lot for, player comparisons, player highlights, big stats, overall team comparisons. You'll see a lot of that stuff used at halftime packages. Sliders, which we'll see a lot for starting QBs, that kind of starting QBs and major players. Usually there'll be a live shot to the right of it and stats and information there when the talent's talking about them. Tombstones are another popular one. These are like little block paragraphs that can pop up over any live shot we need. We also have Eclipse, which this is just a full screen quad with video options, and we'll actually go over how to import videos in this section as well. And here's an interesting one. Here's clips. So actually the open you see actually usually comes from Xpression. Let's actually talk about real quick before we get this loaded up about the videos in Xpression. I'm actually gonna go to layout. So you see this is just a simple project. We have a clip quad here, and all it is a full screen quad with a material tied to it. It's actually locked right now. We'll go and unlock it so we can take a look under the hood. So this material right here is the CFB ESPN Open. Now this is actually a movie clip file, but you can't import just any movie clip file you have. Xpression actually uses its own proprietary codec. So how we do that, we actually have to open up another application aside from Xpression. We need to go down, field search in Windows, Video Coder, Xpression Video Coder right here. So here is the Xpression Video Coder application. It's real simple. It's just simply a transcoder application. You can hit new job. We can select a movie of some sort. Here's an old credit roll, so we'll actually open this. You can preview it right here, and we have our job list right here. So the source information we can see is right here. So your inputs are right over here on the left side and your outputs over here. What we can do is actually select this job here. We can choose whatever frame rate we want. 59 is what we want. RGB plus alpha, so if it has any alpha channel, it'll appear transparent. Target file, so you'll pick wherever you want it to land, and then you'll press to render queue. And you can import multiple jobs at once. You see it's moved over to our output section of render queue. You hit render, and it goes right to work rendering it to the Xpression AVI format. So we'll go and stop that for now. So once you have your video clip encoded, all you need to do is actually right click, press new, video layer. You can select whatever video you just transcoded. We'll do this timeouts right here, and it'll appear right there as a material layer. You can double click and there it'll play. Alright, so now we got that kind of covered. Alright, so let's kind of start digging into this project. You'll notice that this project doesn't have any take IDs in the sequencer, but the ESPN project actually comes with some pre-built things for us. So if we go to File, Take Item List, Import, you want to select XML. If you go to the XML folder inside the project, we have all these different options and sections for groups within the project file. I'm going to select the CFB master. I'm going to select the DAC option because that's usually what we use. This is referring to how we're going to get stuff in the Datalink Manager, and we'll talk a little about that in just a second. I'm going to go and open that up. You can see all the imports we're about to grab. So it's going to make us our groups and import certain take IDs and scene files in there. So let's press import. Give it just a second. And there she is. So now we have all our groups already preloaded, all our stats, all that stuff without having to rebuild them from scratch. So let's check out what kind of stuff we have in here. We have our switcher control group right here, which is things that can be triggered from the switcher. Things like wipes typically get triggered from the switcher and change video sources behind them. And your TD can take these take IDs and actually use this wipe as a transition between two video sources during the game. So it might go from a live shot, you'll see the wipe come across, and while it's full, actually we'll go to a replay or whatever signal the TD wants to. We're going to actually start checking out the data link side of things. So just a quick recap, you have 3 different sources you can use for graphics. You have your static, which is what you retype in. You have your widget for more real-time graphics or counters. Then we have called Datalink. And just to go over Datalink real quickly, Datalink is something that takes external resources like an Excel spreadsheet, a scoreboard, a stat crew, and uses that to put data inside a graphic. So the way Xpression does this is actually use an application that's separate called a Datalink server. So if you go to your Windows, Datalink server, you can actually start that and it'll pop up with this window right here. And this is a separate application that runs in the background of your machine. So what this does is actually take external data, translates it into a format that Xpression then can import and read. It can take something like this Excel spreadsheet. It can divide everything up into cells and format everything. This Excel spreadsheet dumps into here. And then this transcodes it, reads it, and can be imported into our Datalink properties here and drive things like this lower third here for talent. So I'm going to show you how to add an external source into your Datalink. We'll go and press add new. Now we have a bunch of different options for different types of sources. We're going to use an Excel spreadsheet as an example real fast. So we're actually not going to select the Excel Datalink source. We're going to choose an ADODB Datalink source that gives us a little bit more flexibility actually. So I hit OK. It's going to pop up with this window here. And you'll notice it has nothing imported right here. These options are all blanked out. So what I'm actually do, this is where the code goes, but don't worry, you don't have to do any coding. We'll go select template button right here. It's going to bring up a few different options here. I'm going to go to this template folder. I'm going to go to Excel. We're going to select the Excel, which is actually an older version of Excel. It's notated by the .xls. The newer version is the .xlsx, but this is not recommended by ESPN. So we're actually going to go back to our Excel. And this is one thing you need to watch out for when you're saving your Excel spreadsheets. Make sure you save them as an older version of .xls. So this is our template right here. This is the base code that we're going to need to put in the Datalink. Now don't start typing anything in here. We're actually going to hit OK. What it does is copy and paste that same code into our config right here. Alright, so we got one more step to go. So this is our provider code, data source, and these properties right here. All this should remain default. Now the only thing we need to change is we need to tell the Datalink server where our Excel spreadsheet file lives. That's notated right there. So what we're going to do is actually delete this. That's just a placeholder. And now right in between these two characters, we actually need to put the pathway on our computer of where our spreadsheet lives. I'm going to take the ESPN spreadsheet. I'm going to open the file location. It's going to pop on my folder here. I'll show you one little trick. So if it's in this pathway on my computer, I'm actually backslash it. I'm going to go down to CFB home. I'm going to copy and paste this whole pathway. Get rid of that now. Go back into our Datalink. And I'm just going to copy and paste that pathway right there. So now it knows where on the computer this spreadsheet should live. And I can press test connection just to see if it works. And it gives us a connection successful. All right, so now that's working. We can press OK. And here's our first Datalink source based off that spreadsheet. So this will be source 1. Whatever you name this is what is going to be shown inside Xpression. So since this is a pre-built project by ESPN, they have specific names they want these files to be. So I can go in here and go to my home coach and figure out what that is. And they call it data home right here. So since this is the home spreadsheet, we have a home, away, and a title. I'm going to type in data home, enter. And then I'm just going to repeat this process for the next two spreadsheets. Alright guys, so we got those other data sheets put in. So I'm going to show you what this does. So under our home coaches group, we have take ID 270, which is our home coach lower third. So we have our static right here. It's first name, last name, but we're going to make this the head coach lower third. So I'm going to go to Project, Datalink Manager. What the Datalink Manager does is allow you to accept or deny certain Datalink servers that are anywhere on the network. So this one just called local server 1. This will be the IP address if you're using Datalink server on another computer. But since it's on the same computer, I can just press localhost. And this is the port it's going to be looking for, which should match with the port that the server is sending. Hit OK. And you can see we got connected to this Datalink server. And note, you can have more than one Datalink server going at one time. So in this Datalink server, we can see our sources are data home, data away, and data title. So we know that we have access to anything that's inside these sources. So now, since we got that ready, I can now go from our static to our data link. So since this is pre-built, this is already filled out, but I'll go and show you how to do this from scratch. So I'm going to go and clear this out. If I take this graphic, you'll see first name and last name because it has nothing to reference in the data link table and it defaults back to the static. So what I can do is press our data link. I can select whatever source we have. So I know the coach's name lives in the ESPN home sheet. So what I can do, select home. Now I can type in what column, what row, and what table it is, or tab, by hand. Or what I can do is press browse. I can select the table or the tab right here that whatever the data I want lives on. I'm looking for the coach's lower third. So we'll scroll down here. Coach full name. And right here, we have all the coaches that we have listed in our spreadsheet. So I know Papa Stock is our coach. It's on row 1, coach name column, and all I gotta do is select it with the purple highlight, press OK. And you can see it fills in exactly where in that spreadsheet it lives. Just a few things right here. We can do return empty on failure. So if it doesn't see anything, it actually goes empty instead of going back to the static. Make sure it's enabled. Live update, and you can leave entity decoding on. So now if I take this offline, I retake it, you'll see it's pulled Papa Stock from this spreadsheet. So just a quick review. It'll pull in through the spreadsheet, hit the Datalink server. I can import the Datalink server via the Datalink manager. Then I can take the Datalink source, tie it to a cell, and then take that into my graphic. The cool thing about this is if you ever need to change a graphic, so instead of Papa Stock, let's say John Stock, I'm going to save the spreadsheet, and then I'm going to take this offline, I'm going to retake it, and you see it's updated the first name with whatever's in the Xpression sheet. I'm going to go ahead and change that back to Papa Stock here. Save that, take it back offline, and reanimate it. So that's data linking in its kind of simplest form. Now while this automation is awesome, it can still get pretty tedious. So if you have something like lower thirds for players and a roster, that can still be 100 different things you have to go in here and make new items for. Data link it, change the row, make a duplicate, change the row, make a duplicate. But we're actually going to take this one step further. There's a few different tricks we can use to actually automate this completely. So let's go and check that out. So let's go check out our home bios, which are lower thirds for every player of the team. And you can see these have a lot of different information on them. Now you'll notice as I go through these are already populated with the roster of the team. It has their height, weight, information about their hometown, what position they are, and their name, of course. So where this information actually lives in our ESPN home sheet. So if we scroll down in our ESPN home, you can see this roster has actually been filled out by our stats producer. It's got their name, jersey, and all the information we need for this lower third built in. So in order to do this, what we can do is simply take this, for every item here, we have a datalink source that's going to the datasheet home, the position column, whatever jersey number they have, and then their position in the table. So this can be a lot of linking to do by hand. So I'm actually going to show you one of many tricks we can do to actually automate this further. So in this, there's actually two tricks to make this work fluently. There's what we call a relid macro, and that's feeding a datalink key. And I'm going to make a few examples to explain this further. So I'm going to jump back into our layout, make a new scene real fast. Just going to make this a simple quad. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take this to the sequencer. Actually going to make a new group for this. So we have a simple white box, black text. Go to our data link, set this up. I'm actually going to have this feed off the home sheet. Data home. Browse. I'm just going to use the first name of the first player here. So we have Cedric right here. So in order to make the next one, I'm going to duplicate this twice. So what I can do is actually go down a row, go that to 5, go that to 6, and we'll see each player gets updated with their new information here. So if we had to do this 100 times, obviously that's going to take a while. So we're actually going to delete these other two. I'm going to use what we call a relid macro. I'm actually going to name this testing 9100 on the group number. I'm going to name the take ID, since you see we have a 4 in the row, 9104. Enter. Alright, so what that's going to do, when we activate the macro, it's going to subtract the take ID number from the group. So the resulting number of this equation will be 4. 9104 minus 9100. Which is exactly the number we need for the row. So what I'm going to do is take this number right here, delete it. Now I'm going to insert the macro command. You do %, RELID, %, and that now activates the macro. And what it'll do, again, it'll take the take ID minus that number from the group number, and then whatever resulting number that is, it'll input it into the row. So right now if we take this, you can see it's reading off row 4, which is Cedric. But we wanted to have the second name as well, which is Joshua. So if we duplicate this, make one copy, you'll notice that Joshua is already auto-populated because it's already shifted the cell it's looking for in the spreadsheet down one. And this is because this new take ID, which is sequential, is now 9105 minus 9100, which is given the row value a sum of 5. So now our two players are automatically populated when we do this. This roster has up to 97, so all I gotta do is make duplicate, make 95 copies of this, let the scene populate. I can right click on this, and look, Nick pops up, and Nick is our last player. So we've just done the entire roster of this scene file with just a few clicks. So I'm going to delete this just to keep things clean. So this is how you can automatically populate from the spreadsheet the names and data sources inside your graphic. So this is great and all, but what if you have a bunch of different information inside this graphic? So it's going to make some more complicated. Alright, so now we have two different lines in here. So let's say we want to do maybe first name up here and then last name right below it. So we can go to our sequencer. We can repeat the same process. And we can go to last name right here. We go and undo our relid ID. Take that back to 4, just to demonstrate. So you'll see the first name and last name on this are in different columns, but they're the same row. So one other little trick we can do, instead of doing the relid ID every time on this, so what if we had this graphic, but we wanted to change it on the fly really quickly? So instead of player 1 right here, we wanted player number 55. So instead of having to go in here, type in 55, or change this ID to 55 to activate the relid macro, we can actually set up a common point of reference for those numbers, and we call those Datalink Keys. So I'm going to show you how this works, and you probably get a little better grasp of it. Go back into our scene layout. So in order to activate Datalink Keys, we have to deselect our layers, go to our scene layer, and you'll notice this tab pop up called Datalink Keys. I'm going to add a Datalink key in here. I'm gonna call this jersey. It's gonna be a string type, and when the value we can leave blank for now because we'll do that inside the sequencer. So what this does is it'll create a single point of reference for those numbers to hit, and we can change this on the fly in the sequencer. So I'm gonna jump back into the sequencer. The only thing with Datalink Keys is they don't auto-update in the sequencer, so I actually have to delete these, and then drag in a new set. We'll rename this 9104. And notice a little key icon has appeared with the jersey number right here. So what we can do is, we type in 55 there, that'll be whatever jersey number we're looking for. So we have to set up our data link again. Data home. Scroll down to player list. Select our first, so it's in column F3, row 4. Hit OK. We go to our subline. We're going to use this for our last name. Hit data home. And copy and paste. So it's on column F4, and that's going to be row 4 as well. And you can see it's already grabbed our number right here. So instead of our row being a 4, we can use the same percent holder. We can type in whatever our key is. So we can type in JER jersey. And you'll notice this is already updated. I'm going to copy and paste this as well to row 4 of the subline. So you'll notice it's already pulled in the number for 55 because this row number is actually referencing this singular value right here. And so is the subline. So anytime we change this number, it's automatically going to shift the row of which cell it's reading. So I can type in 25. It'll automatically grab whatever cell that's in and immediately import it in for the graphic. So now we understand that if we wanted to go ahead and take this a step further and use both relid and the take IDs, so as our jersey value, we can before, we can actually insert a macro of relid. So now what will happen is take the value of 9104 minus 9100, which is 4. It'll input that into our jersey, which is our Datalink key that is feeding the row for the headline and the subline. So we can duplicate this again, make 2 copies, and now we've just taken this a step further, and this is how we can automate both the headline, subline based off the relid ID. So now we understand this, I'm going to go ahead and jump back into our group 400. We can kind of see how this lower third is set up. So we're going to take this online. So what it's doing is it's taking the jersey Datalink key, using the relid ID, so 401 minus 400 gives us a value of 1. It's importing the player number by the jersey, player name, and all the other information that's embedded in the subline of that graphic. And this is how we can automate the entire lower third section just based off the spreadsheet. So that's kind of Datalink in a nutshell. And remember, you're not limited to just Excel spreadsheets. You can also do things like import data from clocks, from scoreboards, down and distance, or maybe if you want to do stats, you can import from a stat website, and all populate in real time to your graphic lower thirds. Even though sports may use the Datalink probably the most frequently, things like award shows commonly use Datalink. Because of the sheer number of talent that's involved, we can get a spreadsheet from the producer or from the production team and automatically know that the lower thirds are going to be typed right and spelled right. And another thing, if you want to think about, is if everything's hitting a point of reference, no matter what graphic it is, it's going to be updated no matter what in real time. So just for an example, let's load up a full screen. So this is just simple full screen infographic. So let's say the title of this is actually going to be a player name. So you'll notice both those graphics have the same name in them. So let's say maybe his official name is Cedric, but he goes more by his nickname, which is Lucky. So if we change that in our spreadsheet, we'll save that. We'll take both these graphics offline, and we're going to go ahead and launch those again. You'll notice that both graphics have now updated the name to Lucky. So instead of having to go back and change every graphic we made in the whole entire project, if they're all linking back to one central place in the spreadsheet, no matter what, if that spreadsheet is correct, all the other resulting graphics are going to be correct as well. So if your show has a lot of different graphics that are talent specific, this is a great way to keep everything in sync and spelled right no matter what. So these lower thirds actually have some more flexibility inside them, even more than just the names automating. So if you notice, in the sequencer, there's some different options in here for different looks. So we have different options in here, and it gives you a little key right here. So if you want just a logo in your third, you can hit 1. If you want to have the headshot, we can change this number to 2. And if we take this in, it'll put in a headshot there based on the pathway. Or if we type in 3, it'll put the headshot and the logo in there right beside it. So what this is doing is changing code inside the project called visual logic, which we won't get into this video, but it's just simply input data from the sequencer that can change layout, turn on groups, and change certain attributes to be turned on and off based on the sequencer. So if we want to change maybe home to away, it'll go in, if you'll notice, all the colors change and the logo will change as well. So guys, this is just a quick and dirty overview of Datalink and all the automation tools that are available inside Xpression to save yourself a lot of time in the building process. If you want to get a little more in depth about visual logic and more of the automation tools inside Xpression, I'd recommend checking out the Ross University tutorial series on the Ross video website. Hope you learned something, and I hope this helps you in your future projects.